Welcome everybody to The World is a Mess, and I just want to steampunk it. This is episode 58. This is April the 15th, 2022. And I'm your host, Steampunk Star Raisin, here in North Hollywood, California, USA. And I'm with my co-host, Daniel Berterson, in Bellwood, Ontario, Canada. So what's on your mind, Daniel?
Okay, first of all, did you see the new episode of Picard? It was so good.
Episode 7?
Mm-hmm.
I had some issues with it, but we can dive into that if you want. They seem to be contradicting continuity, and they seem to be throwing continuity out the window. They said that the Borg Queen, everything with the Borg Queen, she doesn't behave like a normal Borg Queen. It's like, why wouldn't she just assimilate the cop? And then the doctor, what's her name? The character, Allison Pills. Dorati. Why wouldn't she just assimilate? She did assimilate her. Why does she need endorphins to grow into a Borg Queen? She wouldn't need endorphins. The Borg nanobots would just take over her body and she'd become a new Borg Queen. It doesn't make any sense to me that she needs endorphins and stimulation, like kissing people, or it just seems like a very contrived way of the writers. Maybe I'm jaded, but it doesn't make any sense. It contradicts what the Borg were. I mean, you had the Borg in an episode of Star Trek Enterprise where they easily assimilated a lot of people in a short amount of time. And I don't understand why she's not powerful yet. She doesn't have the ability to assimilate people. I mean, I guess because maybe it's a parallel universe, or it's it's technically not a parallel universe, it's an altered timeline, but it doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. I like my stories to make sense. I mean, yeah, I'm interested to see where it's going. The whole thing with Picard's mom, I mean, I guess they're trying to indicate that the Borg Queen might be Picard's mom or something. I don't know. And then even if the Borg Queen was shot with a shotgun, she should be able to regenerate. And why, I mean, I know she still has control of the ship, but there should be Borg nanobots all throughout that ship by now. Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't know. Maybe I'm a purist for plot, but to me, it seems to break continuity, but maybe they'll explain it. But you really liked it. What were the elements of the episode that you liked, episode 7?
Well, first, okay, I liked how, when they were in that bar, and then Guinan explained how the Elorians and the Q had this Cold War, and then at the end of the Cold War.
Hold on just a sec.
Okay.
Hello, Anne?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're in the middle of recording a podcast, me and Daniel.
I could tell by the cadence of your voice, the way you said my name, I could tell.
Well, hello, everybody. Rock Ann is joining us via the phone.
I've had a really shitty week.
Oh, well, it's been productive. We were talking about Star Trek Picard episode 7, but you haven't even watched that show.
Fortunately, no.
Oh, well, it's episode 7 of season 2, but I know you've had a really crappy week and you've been venting all over Instagram about it, but yeah, because of your mom. But I got the laptop memory upgraded, and you did the photo shoot with 8-foot Beast.
Yeah.
It was as if I wasn't even there. But anyway, yeah, Star Trek Picard is a streaming show, but it's on Netflix, where it basically focuses on Picard after his time with the Next Generation cast. The first season he was retired, and then apparently he rejoined Starfleet as an admiral. And now it's got a altered timeline by Q, and he's having to travel back in time to try to fix the timeline with a whole new crew of people. So that sums it up, because you've seen episodes of Next Generation, so you're familiar with Captain Picard, right? But yeah, so they have a whole series. Apparently, they're going to do a season 3, and that will be the final season of Picard. But anyway, let me talk back to Daniel really quick. So anyway, you were telling me, Daniel, what were the elements you really liked about episode 7?
Well, I did like okay, the whole Elorians had a war with the Q. I thought that was interesting. I'm thinking, wow, that would be interesting. So they probably do have technology that can hurt them or something. They can
Well,
defend themselves.
I really wish they would have just kept Whoopi Goldberg, because I don't like the actress who's playing a young Guinan. She doesn't look like Guinan, and her cadence and the way she speaks and she seems to have like almost an attitude. She doesn't seem like Whoopi Goldberg's portrayal of Guinan, because Guinan I always viewed as like a warm, fuzzy person who's welcoming to all except for maybe the Borg, because apparently the Borg destroyed her homeworld. So I can understand why she would have a grievance against the Borg. But I don't know. I really wish they would have kept Whoopi Goldberg, maybe just did CGI to de-age her, but I get that that would have probably been expensive. That's just my gut feeling about it.
It's like that whole story where it says, like, they had a truce. The Elorians and the Q had a truce over a bottle of wine, and how the Elorians
That
think
seemed
that
really hokey, like they're going into fantasy territory.
but
I didn't really like the storyline where Picard is stuck in a coma talking to his dead mom, and he has a fantasy of his mom being a queen and he's a boy prince. I mean, come on, Picard is like in his 70s or 80s by this point in the timeline, and so it really makes no sense.
Well, I think they said he was pushing 100. He was pushing 100, the character.
Okay, I don't know how old. I mean, I know it takes place 20 years after Nemesis, but so I mean, they put a lot of fantasy elements, and it just seems like a way to not have to do sci-fi. They had a time travel story, which mostly this season focuses on the 21st century, which seems to be an excuse to cut down on special effects. And then they do fantasy. They were like, well, it's sci-fi, so we have to do something. So they add fantasy elements that make no sense to me. And yeah, I mean, like magical fantasy elements. I don't know. We'll see as the season wraps up. I'm not very optimistic because we're already into episode 7, and this season only has 10 episodes? How many episodes this season?
I think 10? So, yeah.
So
10, I think. So
I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm picky. I'm a stickler for plot consistency. This really shows. I really wish they had brought back Rick Berman. I really wish they had brought back all the Star Trek historians they had fired in 2006 and the production people that had
I think they said they brought back Denise and Michael Okuda.
Okay, I've heard that name before, but yeah, I don't like Alex Kurtzman. He apparently never watched a single episode of Star Trek, or he only has a vague understanding of Star Trek, because you can see a million plot inconsistencies. I mean, I want a good story, but yeah, I mean, and I don't understand, like, oh, I'm really a Romulan, I'm an agent assigned to protect Rene Picard, and I'm really a Romulan. I have secret ears. I mean, it's just getting kind of hokey, and it's played by the same actress. I mean, you got Brent Spiner, who played Commander Data, who's playing another soon. You got the actress who did Soji or whatever, Soji, who's playing like the daughter of a Soon in the 21st century. And it's really confusing because they got different actresses playing the same character. So, well, if you're going to do that, why couldn't you have Whoopi Goldberg? I guess her price was too high. and they didn't want to spend the money to have to de-age her because Whoopi Goldberg's, looks different because she's grown older, gained some weight. But yeah, I really love Whoopi Goldberg in the role of Guinan, and I just think that it's a disservice to the character of Guinan. I mean, I can understand maybe recasting her if Whoopi Goldberg had passed away, but I really wish they would have kept Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan, because I thought she just gave a warmth to the character.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of indecisive. I guess if they can explain some things before they wrap up the end of the season, then maybe it'll be better. I just don't like the plot inconsistencies. I don't like that the Borg Queen needs endorphins to get her superpowers back or whatever, to be able to assimilate people. She's lost the ability to assimilate people. It makes no sense, because if you'd watched Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and even Enterprise, they had one episode with the Borg and Enterprise. Even with all that and the Star Trek First Contact movie, the Borg don't need endorphins to gain the ability to simulate people. They have Borg nanobots in the bloodstream, and they replicate themselves at a rapid rate. And it just makes no sense to me. It just seems like a filler episode where we're like, well, we got this Borg Queen who's on the loose, who assimilated the Doctor on the ship, and she's in her mind, and she's taken over her body, but she doesn't have the ability to simulate anybody yet because she needs endorphins. I mean, she needs to kiss people and she needs to break glass because she needs endorphins. It just seems hokey to me, and it contradicts. It contradicts the Borg. The Borg didn't need endorphins to assimilate anybody. You touch somebody, just like in First Contact, where Picard in First Contact said, "Don't let them touch you, because that's all it takes for them to assimilate you." And they could put Borg nanobots into the ship and assimilate the ship and turn it into a Borg ship really easily. And this contradicts everything we know about the Borg. Now, I know it's an altered timeline, but even with an altered timeline, with a Borg Queen from the future, her basic abilities should still be the same. It makes no sense. There's no explanation. Maybe they removed all of her Borg nanobots, the Confederation, because it's an altered timeline where in the future they don't have a federation, they have a confederation. The Confederation, but they just needed to put like one line. It's like, man, do your research Star Trek lore. This really does a disservice to Star Trek lore. It kind of offends me, because it's, you really need to fire that bastard Alex Kurtzman. I can't stand him. He has no understanding, no concept of Star Trek lore and Star Trek mythology. And to me, this is more than just entertainment. I didn't like that interview where he said that, well, we're not really that concerned about, maintaining Star Trek continuity, or we're not really that concerned about the mythology of Star Trek. We're more concerned about inserting social issues into Star Trek entertainment, which he's got it in reverse. I mean, Star Trek is supposed to be a blueprint for the future. The way Gene Roddenberry had phrased it and written it originally, he was trying to depict an optimistic view of the future, that if we set aside our differences, racism, poverty, war, that this is what beautiful things we could do. We could develop space technology instead of being counterproductive. I really like, my favorite episode of Next Generation is the Neutral Zone, which was the season finale of season 1 of Next Generation, which leads into the Borg, and it leads, and it introduces the Romulans to the Federation for the first time in 70 years. And it was a really good plot device that, and Gene Roddenberry had a hand in writing that episode. And it was a really good plot device, finding a bunch of wealthy people from the 20th century who were spoiled and rich, and they had died of like cirrhosis or cancer. And now that, that they've been perfectly frozen and preserved on a cryo ship, they were able to be resuscitated. So they became living time capsules of the 20th century. And I loved how like Picard was like you have that bank investor, the rich stock market bank investor, the banker who was like, where's all my stocks and bonds? And Picard was like, well, in the 24th century, we don't have that kind of, the driving force of mankind is no longer financial. It's the driving force of mankind is, to better yourself. It's to better yourself and to, what is the way that Picard phrased it? It's
to better yourself, to enrich yourself.
Yeah, well, and the pursuit of knowledge instead of, he said the driving force of man, Picard had to tell him in season 1 of Next Generation that the driving force of mankind in the 21st century is now the pursuit of knowledge instead of the pursuit of wealth. Because in our society, and this is on a global scale, we waste so much time. Will I have enough for retirement? And then, like I had a friend who lost his ass on his 401k. Like everything seems to be rigged against the majority of the people. The stock market is just basically like one huge Ponzi scheme. And, Star Trek is supposed to be a blueprint, a guiding force, a moral guiding force for how beautiful the future could be if we could set aside our petty differences and stop being so materialistic and so obsessed with pursuing wealth and be more concerned with the pursuit of knowledge instead of the pursuit of wealth, and be more concerned with the well-being of fellow people. It's
I like it.
And so I don't like how Alex Kurtzman blatantly admits in an interview that he has no real interest in Star Trek continuity. He just wants to insert his own storyline of his moral opinion. And I mean, I know that ice is bad, but it kind of distracts from the storyline, and it's like over blatant. It's not subtle, and it distracts from the storyline. I doubt anybody from CBS or Paramount will ever see this because I'm not a very popular YouTuber, but if you ever do, you need to hire me to be a showrunner. You need to hire me to be the writer, because I know Star Trek continuity, and if what I don't know, I would research. But he obviously, Alex Kurtzman doesn't give a damn. And it's just more disappointing new Trek. Anything new Trek, like after 2006 so far, has sucked. Whether it be Star Trek Discovery or whatever.
I wanted to weigh in, but
okay, go ahead, weigh in, Ann. What?
That guy that you mentioned that doesn't give a damn about the continuity or whatnot.
Yeah.
That guy wouldn't even pass my film class. He couldn't even pass the test in my film class, let alone pass the class. But that's something that we emphasize. We emphasize like continuity. We emphasize all those things you mentioned that he disregarded, like that stuff that was emphasized in my film class. So.
Yeah, I mean, but unfortunately, when you get into become a corporate executive like Alex Kurtzman has at CBS, you become immune to criticism, and, but unfortunately, people who were handpicked by Gene Roddenberry, like Rick Berman's still alive. They destroyed his career. They really need to bring back Rick Berman because he understands Star Trek.
Yeah, most corporate executives can destroy their own career. Disregarding stuff like that, making movies that completely suck, but they probably is very rich, probably has a big retirement, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just a retirement.
Well, the problem is he's been involved in Star Trek since season 1 of Discovery, and and Discovery, they're talking about canceling it after season 5 because Discovery hasn't really done that well, because most Star Trek fans hate it because it also ignores continuity and makes no sense. And but they won't fire him. They for whatever reason view him as a success. And
kind of like Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, yeah, Kathleen Kennedy just lacked creativity, and she tried to repeat the original Star Wars, and then she let somebody else take over, and then he screwed it up, Rian Johnson. But and that also kind of ignores continuity, the sequel trilogy. So far, I just like to pretend that New Trek never happened and that Star Trek ended in 2005. It makes me feel a little bit more nostalgic and feel better about it. If I view it that way, then I'm like, okay, it's at least plot consistent all the way up till 2005 for the most part. And I like to pretend that there are no new episodes of Star Wars after episode 6. So, with the exception of Rogue One, that's the only thing that I like that was done under Kathleen Kennedy. Is I like Rogue One because they did a really good job of making it feel like retro Star Wars from the 70s using real world props. And I thought the story was relatively good. But she gave creative control. I forgot who directed Rogue One. Do you remember who directed Rogue One? Daniel?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, but anyway, they gave more creative control to the director, and they did a lot of reshoots, but it turned out pretty good. Did you like Rogue One?
Yeah, definitely. It was really good.
That's the only Kathleen Kennedy and only Disney Star Wars movie that I like. I hate the sequel trilogy. Otherwise, I didn't really like Solo. There were some good elements in it. I like the Darth Maul cameo. Spoiler alert if you hadn't seen it, but the movie came out in 2018, so it's been a while. And but I just thought as a whole the movie did not work, and it was just really poor character development. Like in Solo, a Star Wars story, I didn't like how they spent, like, it's just really poor writing. It's just lazy writing. Like in Solo, a Star Wars story, it's supposed to be a prequel to Han Solo, and they just turned the name Han Solo into a joke. They were like, because it had already been established. But what had already been established in canon that Han Solo had joined the Imperials originally. He had joined the Imperial Academy and to train as a pilot, but then he rebelled and he left the Empire. And they covered that part in there, but then you find out that Han Solo is not his name. He was like, oh, what name should we put in the database as he's signing up for the Imperial Academy? We shall call you, you're alone, right? We shall call you Han Solo. And I was like, God, that is so cheesy and so stupid. And it really hurts the character of Han Solo. And then the actor who played Han Solo did not look like Han Solo, and he didn't act like Han Solo. And the other problem I had with Solo, a Star Wars story, is they introduced a bunch of characters. This is like, why would you waste the first 15 minutes of the movie introducing all these characters who die 2 minutes later? That's literally what they did in Solo, a Star Wars story. I mean, I get that they're trying to show, hey, he lived in a rough world where you don't know if your friend's going to die the next second, but it's like, that's just really poor screenwriting, that you introduce these characters and then you spend like 15 minutes of the movie character development, and then they die like 60 seconds, 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
So there are some similarities, but yeah, it's just that's what happens when large corporations take over things. They ruin them, and they don't understand the vision of Gene Roddenberry. They really don't. It's more than entertainment. It's supposed to be a blueprint for the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my rant about Star Wars and Star Trek, what I don't like about the new stuff. But we only got about 5 minutes. What's the link that you sent me? 1 trillion lions versus the sun? What is that?
Yeah, it's like who would win in a fight? 1 trillion lions versus the sun, and it apparently that's a kind of a weird question, because the sun would burn everything, right?
I don't think 1 trillion lions would win, because they would die for a lack of oxygen. I mean, like, how are you going to get the lions to the sun? I guess it's a thought experiment, but they would just become part of the sun. They would get consumed, and then their atoms would be assimilated into the sun.
Yeah,
But, that's kind of goofy.
Strange question.
Well, it's meant to be intellectual humor. I get it.
But okay, like well, see, I liked it how like when they like
Well,
like
if
you
you
said
had
like you got
enough
the
lions, if
Mhm.
you like put a bunch of lions on a spaceship, I mean, the logistics of that would be impossible, of course, a trillion lions. So there's not, if you put a trillion lions on multiple spaceships and then you collided them with the sun, if there was enough mass added to the sun, you could create a stellar, you could create a collapse, a gravitational collapse, because the
Mhm.
sun would acquire too much mass and then it could become a black hole. But
But
also, you walk a fine line. Also, the sun would either become a black hole or burst into a supernova.
mhm. Okay, so
But
going back
I
to
think
Star
it
Trek.
would take more than a trillion lions, because like what a lion
Mhm.
only weighs like 60 pounds or 100 kilograms or whatever. And I'd have to do the conversion of metric, but whatever. You get the point that I don't think a trillion lions would be enough to destroy the sun. I think they would just be added to the mass of the sun. But I'd have to do more research next week on the next because we're down to about 3 minutes. So, any
Mhm.
last thoughts, Anne or Daniel, before we end
Well,
the
like okay,
podcast in 3 minutes?
um,
Uh,
okay. So I just liked it how when she
my
opened
wing
the
is
bottle, when she opened the
What
sorry,
did you say, Anne? What? Repeat?
my wing is like, I hope it gets better.
Well, I am sorry. We'll get together again in the hotel next month. There's just you always have baby mama drama. You have mama drama a lot, and I don't want to get into it because
Yeah.
because people tend to twist everything I say on the internet and try to use it against
Oh,
me.
so
Gotcha.
and I gotta say, like I loved it when she opened the bottle and then like you hear all these wails and moans. It was something out of like it was something creepy, right?
Oh
Something
yeah, the whole bottle thing. I thought that was really quirky. That's like
yeah, and then she
adding "I
drank from
Dream a
it.
Genie"
Yeah,
fantasy crap. I didn't really care for
I
that.
like
I
it.
thought that was cheesy. Okay,
I
you
like
liked
it when
it?
they add that stuff to Star Trek. It's really cool. It's like so, and people on Discord are like, yeah, it's on Star Trek. It doesn't matter if it's on Star Trek. It's something cool. It's like something else they add to it that make it like more modern, you know.
It's
And
not really more modern. That's like "I Dream a Genie" kind of crap, in my
like yeah,
opinion.
okay, when okay, they try to summon a Q, right? But it didn't work. So, but then when the guy comes in, didn't you think it was a Q at first? I thought it was. Probably
I
thought it was a
don't
Q.
know. I mean,
But you know what?
who
You recognize
knows?
that guy?
There's so many contradictions in this storyline. I
Do
have
you
no
recognize?
idea anymore.
But do you recognize that guy? It was the same guy from the Voyager episode Relativity. That's Dufresne, whatever his name is. He was on that
I refresh my
Relativity.
memory. There's been over 700 episodes of Star Trek on
Well, okay, remember? I
TV.
think it was like in a season 6 episode of Voyager when
Okay.
Seven and Janeway were transported to that ship in the future,
Yeah.
that 26th century ship, the time ship.
Okay, we're out of time. I want to
Uh,
wrap up one last
right.
minute. We'll talk more about that next time. That's why
Yes,
you
yes.
shouldn't stand me up like you did yesterday.
Oh,
Anyway, we need to do more podcasts so that we can get this, get our audience size up, because I think that would help you as well as it would help me. But the only other news I want to say is as of today, I've been approved for press at Dragoncon. So
that's great.
I will be going to Dragoncon this year, or Dragoncon 2022, and I'm already got the logistics, got the airplane ticket, I've got the hotel room, now I've got my badge, so it's looking good. And
What's that Dragon Con?
well, it's a sci-fi convention held in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not going to go too far into it because we're out of time, but if you want to say hi to me at DragonCon, the few of you who watch every episode of this podcast and every episode of my YouTube, if you want to say hi to me at DragonCon, I will be there. I'll be handing out flyers. I'll be interviewing people, and I'll be handing out Lego toy sets for free, as long as you can prove that you subscribe and follow me on social media. Anyway, you have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will.
Bye.